evening and Shabbat Shalom. I want to hear that again. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. It really feels wonderful for us to all be here together. With those words, we'll begin in Hebrew with the same expression of thanksgiving with Hinei Ma Tov. How wonderful it is for us to be together.
Hinei ma tov u'manayim, hinei ma tov u'manayim, hinei ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov u'manayim, hinei ma tov u'manayim, hinei ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov, hinei ma tov, hinei ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov, hinei ma tov, hinei ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Tonight, entering into this space, for some of us, this is for the first time in more than a year. And I believe that for each of us, it carries in our hearts and minds a mixture of emotions, perhaps uncertainties regarding our future. I want us to take just a moment to prayerfully reflect on where we are today. And we pray to God that God may continue to be with us and guide us as we continue to navigate our safe reopening. On this Erev Shabbat, we pray that God help us to experience the strength of our community as we are filled with the power of God's presence among us. May this building once more be filled with voices of praise and prayer. Before we begin the rest of our service, it would only be appropriate for us to begin with the words of Shehechianu in celebration of coming back together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kimanu v'hegianu lazman hazeh.
Hopefully when you walked in, you were able to take both our gold Rosh Hashanah prayer book as well as a pamphlet for Elul readings. If you haven't, I encourage you to go do that right now before we officially begin. I wanted to start by saying that Jewish tradition encourages introspection and self-examination, which we call Cheshbon HaNefesh during the month of Elul, which is, of course, the month that we currently find ourselves as we prepare for the high holidays. Tonight, as we pause for our day of rest, we not only thank God for this holy day and, of course, for it being our first in-person Shabbat evening service, but we also begin to reflect on our relationships with ourselves, with each other, and with God. And so we begin with an opening meditation, observing and celebrating this particular moment in time. And so, if you will, on your daf tefillah, we'll join together where it says, our sages. Our sages teach, wherever 10 Jews live, they must set up a building where they can come together to pray. Such a place is called a Beit Knesset, a house of assembly, a synagogue. And so we learn, wherever 10 gather in prayer, The divine presence is among them. There is holiness and community, for in community we meet the Holy One. Hine ma tov, how good it is to be together, how good to gather as one people, before our God, who cherishes the uniqueness of each soul. Hine ma tov, precious is the gift of community, blessed the joy of our gathering. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. Now is the time for turning. The leaves are beginning to turn from green to red and orange. The birds are beginning to turn and are heading once more toward the south. The animals are beginning to turn to storing their food for the winter. For leaves, birds, and animals, turning comes instinctively. But for us, turning does not come so easily. It takes an act of will for us to make a turn. It means breaking with old habits. It means admitting that we have been wrong, and this is never easy. It means losing face. It means starting all over again, and this is always painful. It means saying, I am sorry. It means recognizing that we have the ability to change. These things are terribly hard to do, but unless we turn from callousness to sensitivity, these things are terribly hard to do, but unless we turn, we'll be trapped forever in yesterday's ways. God help us to turn from callousness to sensitivity, from hostility to love, from pettiness to purpose, from envy to contentment, from carelessness to discipline, from fear to faith. Turn us around and bring us back toward you. Revive our lives as at the beginning, and turn us toward each other, for in isolation there is no life. We turn now in our prayer books to page 9.
The time is now, we've gathered round, so bring all your gifts and bring all your burdens with you. No need to hide, arms open wide, we gather as one to make a makom kadosh. We come to tell, we come to hear, we come to teach, to learn, we come to grow, and so we say, the time is now. Sing to the one. God's presence is here. Shekhinah, you will dwell among us. We'll make this space a holy place, so separate, so whole. Rejoice every soul who enters here.
We turn now to page 11 for our candle blessing. I'd like to invite Carol Graff forward to help us with lighting our candles tonight. And Carol, this means you are now appointed every week to be the one to find someone to be lighting candles.
The first mitzvah in the Torah is let there be light. So we are commanded, in everything you do, be a menorah, a bringer of light. Live with honor, act with integrity, do your work with passion, and the radiance of your deeds will live after you. May our ideals burn bright, forever unextinguished, and may we live our lives like the flame we kindle, always stretching upward, striving for the good, reaching for you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirishonu b'mitzvotov, v'zivonu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. We now continue and turn to page 14 for Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu Nil Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We now turn to page 40, but keep your hand where you were at page 15 for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash mirabah Belmad ivrach yotev yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayedeko bet Yisrael Bagala bagala uvizman kariv v'himru Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach lehala mulal mehalmaya yitbarach Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitbahar, v'yitramam, v'yitnase, v'yithadar, v'yithalal, shemei d'kudashah. Lahela mikol bechata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma, v'himeru. Amen. Please rise as we turn back to page 20 for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, u'bitfuna mishane itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'mesader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, Uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzevaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Love beyond all space and time, your love enfolds your people Yisrael. We receive it in your teaching, your gift of Torah, sacred obligations, discipline, and law. So let us speak these teachings when we lie down and rise up, and find joy forever in your Torah and mitzvot. They are the very essence of our life, ours to ponder and study all our days. May we never lose or be unworthy of your love. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. For you are blessed, the one who loves your people, Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated.
We look to the words of Ve'ahavta found in your Daf Tefillah for Elul. Please pray with me. You shall love the ones who are close with all your heart, with all your spirit, with all your strength. Remember these words, inscribe them on your heart. Love them when they struggle, when they sadden and disappoint you. Love them when they fail. See the good within them even when they can't. Look at them and listen even when it's hard. Be grateful for their guidance, even their reproof, when they save you from yourself. Love them when they give you joy, and love them when they don't. When you lie down, let go of anger. When you rise up at dawn, begin again. Praise them for their deeds at home. Speak to them in public with respect. Bind yourself to the ones you love, with promises kept and vows fulfilled. Open to them the gates of your heart, the doorway of your soul, and let them know you. So shall the ones you cherish feel your love, your presence, and your care. And it is my pleasure to invite us to pray responsively on page 33. To break the bonds of anger, to be generous of heart, to break the bonds of shame, to live with self-respect, to break the bonds of envy, to serve one another in joy, to break the bonds of boredom, to be attentive to all God's gifts, to break the bonds of fear, to live with courage and strength, to untie the knots of betrayal, to love with fullness of being, to break the bonds of loneliness, to receive a hand of hope, to break the bonds of self-centeredness, to extend a hand of help. Released from the darkness, our people found their freedom at the sea, and we pray for liberation at the dawning of this year.
Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Yorat ilot osei fele, Yorat ilot osei fele, Malchutecha כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני,
Ga'al Yisrael.
Ashkevenu Adonai Eloheinu. May we lie down this night in safety and peace. May we wake each day to life and to love. May we wake each day to life and to love. Ufros alinu sukat shlomecha. May we spend our days in your sheltering presence, protected from evil, sadness, and harm, protected from evil, from danger. Ushmor tzitenu voenu. May we journey through life. May we journey through life. Ushmor tzitenu voenu. In the shadow of your wings, in the shadow of your wings, O God of compassion, O God of grace, our shield and salvation, both now and forever. O God of compassion, O God of grace, our shield and salvation, both now and forever. Amen.
We turn to page 38. Let all Israel keep Shabbat and celebrate Shabbat for all generations as an everlasting covenant. It is a sign forever, a bond between me and Israel, that in 6 days the Eternal One made the heavens and the earth, but on the seventh day God stopped and breathed a new soul into the world.
We continue together on page 42, and I ask those who are able to please rise for the Amidah.
Adonai Sfatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Ilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chazei Avot v'Imot, U'mevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, Le'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Hoseh U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Zerat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Atal, Mechalkei L'chaim B'chesed, Mechayei HaKol B'rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit, Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, B'nei Amanata L'chayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayei HaKol, Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kadoshim B'chol Yom Yalalucha Selah, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
You may be seated as we turn to page 59.
Help me to serve you truly, with purity of heart. When I hear hateful or degrading speech, let me focus on good words and worthy thoughts. When my worst instincts cause me torment, teach me to care for myself and for others. In rough waters and misfortune, let me harbor patience and strength. Make my soul a sanctuary, that your light may dwell within me. Align all my acts in pursuit of goodness. So may I be a vessel of holiness, serving you with purity and truth. And at the bottom of 58, Baruch Atah Adonai, Melech al kol haaretz, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael u'tefilatan be'ava be'ava
on page 62. God who is ours, God of all generations, to you we are grateful forever. Rock and protector of our lives, your saving power endures from age to age. We thank you and tell the tale
of your
praise. Your power in our lives, your caring for our souls, the constant miracle of your kindness, morning, noon, and night. We call you goodness, for your compassion never ends. We call you mercy, for your love has no limit. We call you hope, now and for all time. And on the bottom of 65. Source of blessings, may we open our eyes to the radiance around us. May we open our hearts with gratitude and our souls with appreciation. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shibcha u'lecha na'el lechodot.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata Shalom, Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol Bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Baruch atah Adonai hamvarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. We now take a moment for silent prayer and meditation.
Shalom b'mromav. Yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol
will now invite you to rise for the Torah service, because we are not on Zoom.
And we turn to page 227.
Page number.
Ein kamocha Elohim Adonai ve'ein k'maasecha malchutcha malchut kol olamim u'memsharcha bechol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai os le'amo yitin Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah U'devar Adonai b'Yerushalayim Baruch shenatan Torah Torah Baruch shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo Gadol Adonai iti U'rama Shemo yachdav Lecha Adonai Hagedula Hagevura V'Tiferet V'Nitzach V'Haod Ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz Ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz Lecha Adonai hamamlacha V'amid na'aseh lechol erosh
You may be seated. So this week's Torah portion comes from Parashat Shoftim, which can be found in your Torah portion, or in your Torah commentary if you have it in front of you. Not on the page number I wrote down. That is not helpful. That is a haftarah. So, one moment. We don't want the essays on Shoftim. On page 1294. It is Deuteronomy, so I'm keeping you on your toes. I'm going to start with Deuteronomy 16, verse 18, right at the beginning of the parashah, and then we're going to jump a little bit over some idolatry and back into the stuff on justice. I will let you know when we get there. For those who may have kept a finger in their prayer books, we will join in the blessing over the Torah reading, which is on page 230. Baruchu et Adonai hamvorach, Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vaed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah. Shofetim v'shoterim, judges and magistrates, titain lecha, that you shall appoint for yourselves bekol sha'arecha in all of your gates, asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha, which Adonai your God will give to you. L'shavtecha, to judge yourselves within them, v'shaftu, and to make laws, et ta'am, for the people, mishpat tzedek, laws of justice. Lo tita mishpat, you should not pervert justice or the law. Lo takir panim, you should not play favorites. Velo tikach shochad, and you should not take bribes. Ki hashochad ya'aver einei chachamim, because bribes blind the eyes of the wise. V'yisalef divrei tzadakim, and pervert the words of the just. And the famous saying and teaching, tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice you shall pursue. Lima'an techiyeh, in order that you should live. V'yirishta, and inherit et ha'eretz, asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha, and to inherit the land which Adonai your God gives to you. And this is the part where we will jump to the next chapter, so chapter 18, verse 8. Ki yifaleh mimecha, and if ki yifaleh mimecha devar lemishpat, and if a matter of justice, a matter of law comes before you that is too wondrous, yifaleh is from the root like to be wonderful. Bein dam ledam, whether it's a case of blood, bein din ladin, whether it's a case of like law or justice, uvein nega lenega, or if it's a case of, nega is the word for like to be struck, so sort of like assault. Divrei rivod bisharecha, matters that are controversial within your gates. V'kamta ale alitza el hamakom asher yivchar Adonai Elohecha, and you should bring yourselves up to the place which Adonai your God has chosen, chosen it. Uva'ata el hakohanim haleviim ve'el hashofet asher yiyeh b'yamim hahem, and you should come before the priests, the Levites, and the judge that will be there in your days. V'darashta, and they will look into this. V'higidu lecha et davar hamishpat, and they will explain to you the matter of the law. Ve'asita, and you will do al pi hadavar asher yagidu lecha, according to that which they have told you. Min hamakom hahu, from that place, asher yivchar Adonai, which God has chosen. V'shamarta, and you should guard it, la'asot, to do it. Kechol asher yorucha el pi haTorah, asher yorucha ve'el hamishpat asher yomeru lecha, according to that which they have taught you, according to their words of Torah, according to that which was taught, and according to the law which they have spoken lecha to you. Ta'aseh, you shall do. Lo tasor min hadavar, do not deviate from that which they have told you. Asher yagidu lecha, which they have told to you, yamin usmol, to the right or to the left. I will pause our reading there. It continues to tell you what will happen if somebody, through an act of zealousy, chooses not to do what they tell you. But I like to end on a positive note. We'll join in the blessing after the reading. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. And we will rise as we turn to page 246 as the Torah is lifted.
V'zot haTorah shesa Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai v'yad Moshe. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai,
now to page 245. Or 244. May the one who brought blessings to our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to our mothers, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bring the blessing of health to all those who are ill. We especially think at this moment of Maxine Rubin, Nikki Lapine, Jonathan Carrico, Noah Lapine Carrico, Marlene Maiman, Cecily Nathan, Sarah Swenson, Candace Chapin, Diane Schreier, Jim Hagan, Gershon Reuven Ben Esther, Linda Dean Harris, Rivka Bat Avraham Vasara, William Rossi, Rosalind Moss, Pat Bloom, Ronald Epstein, Helen Fine, James Hockman, Christine Wagner, Tracy Huddleston, Joe McKenna, Jerry McDonald, Richard Lieberman, Joel Pinsker, Marty Sacker, Bob and Gert Kahn, and Deborah Seidel. May the Holy One, blessed source of life and healing, sustain and strengthen them with compassion and restore them to full health without delay. For all who struggle against illness, let renewal of spirit and renewal of body come soon, and together we say Amen. And before we sing the words of Misha Berach, if there's anyone else whose name you'd like to add, please feel free to call them forward. We continue now with the words on page 245.
Mishaberach Avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Mishaberach Imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Bless us with the vision for tomorrow. Help us to reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. Mishaberach Avotenu, Mishaberach Imotenu. Hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well.
We're going to hold off on the shofar for right now. So if you'd like to be seated, you may. I'm messing with our setup a little bit. We're making it move along in a way that feels comfortable, at least for me. And I'd like to start by sharing a few words of Torah. I apologize, I've got these like Invisalign type things, and I'm not used to speaking in front of people, and I keep tripping over my lips. So for that reason, Rabbi Sobo is now going to be doing the shofar blowing this evening, and I will try not to be tripping over my words. It's true. Rabbi Sobo had a very rabbinic moment of sharing that there seems to be a rabbinic leader, if you don't remember Moses, who also had the problem of stumbling over his lips and his words, so I'm in good company. This week and next week, children will be entering new classrooms where they will be greeted, I imagine, by smiling teachers. But before the children will learn anything else, teachers will start with class rules. Raise your hand before speaking, respect one another, keep your hands to yourself, perhaps no gum chewing. Once all the students have heard and understood the expectations, the rules would probably be posted someplace where they are always visible, and yet by the end of the day, it is likely that each and every rule has had to be repeated several times. The Torah, which is our teacher, also uses repetition to emphasize something that is important to us. We are taught, in fact, the Ten Commandments not once but twice, first in Exodus and then again in Deuteronomy. In Exodus, we read 4 nearly identical passages commanding to the Israelites that they must appear before God on 3 occasions during the calendar year. And then no fewer than 36 times, we are instructed to care for the stranger. Sometimes the Torah even repeats a word right after itself, like we saw in this week's Torah portion, Shoftim, when we just read the words, Tzedek, Tzedek, Tirdof. Justice, justice shall you pursue. Traditionally, Jews have understood that there are no superfluous letters or words in the Torah. Each repetition is there in order to teach us not just that it's important, but to teach us something new. And so we have to ask, what is this new idea that we are asked to be gleaning from 2 tzedeks, 2 justices, in justice, justice shall you pursue? Reish Lakish, who lived and taught in Tiberias in the 3rd century of the Common Era, took note that this verse appears within this part of Torah that deals with the creation of a legal system and the careful selection of judges. To this end, Reish Lakish taught that the repetition of the word tzedek instructs judges to be deliberate and careful in a decision, in judgment, revisiting and reviewing the case and not rushing into a decision. Now, this was especially true if they were going to be delivering a guilty verdict, when they demanded that they wait until the following day. Similarly, in the 11th century, Maimonides, who lived in Egypt, taught that it emphasizes the need to consult with others, garnering as many points of view as possible before reaching a decision. And the 13th century Spanish biblical commentator Nachmanides suggests tzedek is there twice to address 2 separate communities, tzedek, tzedek. It's to exhort both the judges and the ordinary citizens that they are to pursue righteousness. Now, in all of these interpretations, the point that we see is that justice above all, justice must be paramount. Judges must do everything that they can to ensure that it stays that way. They must be thorough. They cannot rely on their own assumptions. They must seek out diverse views. And while they are responsible for justice reigning supreme, they are not alone. Their community cannot relinquish all responsibility to its elected officials. Rather, it is up to everyone, collectively, to ensure that public affairs are run on a basis of righteousness. These 3 words are often the basis of much of our Jewish social work, our Jewish social justice work. When we see that something falls short of what we consider tzedek, we take it upon ourselves to make our voices heard. Of course, I could offer myriad examples of this type of work, but I think I'll just point to one. In Sefer HaMitzvot, we're taught that it is preferable and more proper that even 1,000 guilty people should be set free than to someday execute even one innocent person. Although our laws are there to pursue justice, it is not entirely always correct. We know that sometimes there are those who are sentenced to death only to be exonerated after that. And so one of the things that I've been working on, just to share with you, and you'll probably hear more about it, has been taking on the issue of abolishing the death penalty here in Ohio. Another way to interpret tzedek tzedek tirdof is to take into account the strangeness of that expression. Because if you think about it, when considering the pursuit of justice, shouldn't it be the word pursue, the word that is active and urgent, that should be repeated, right? If the goal is to pursue justice and not simply to keep it on your radar, it would make sense to amplify it more than justice, the word justice itself. Justice should you pursue. Pursue it. But that's not what the Torah does. It repeats the word tzedek, not pursuit. Tzedek over tirdof. It has been suggested that perhaps this emphasis on tzedek is to ensure that it is actually justice that we are pursuing. There are times when one thinks that he may be enacting justice, but in its blind pursuit, loses sight of what justice and righteousness mean. Tzedek tzedek tirdof is not just running after justice, but it is ensuring that justice is carried out justly. We must seek justice through just ways, not simply abiding by a system of laws that can lead us sometimes to lose sight of the spirit of the law. The ends must never justify the means. For a world to reflect true justice, both the letter of the law and the spirit of law must be upheld. Even in a world where sometimes hate can find protection under the letter of the law, we must not consider that enough justice. Rather, we are obligated to work together. Like Rabbi Tarfon says, you must do something. You don't have to complete the work, but you must be involved in it. We are obligated to work together to ensure that the spirit of the law is upheld and all people are treated as reflections of God's image. When I was thinking of this, I was reminded of another group that's doing wonderful things in our world. I see this in the nonprofit, which is not surprisingly, in my opinion, run by some strong Jewish women, known as Integrity First for America. And this work the group is doing works within the legal system in a world where people could be vigilante in the way that they try to achieve justice when one wrong has been committed. It's an opportunity for people to work within the system to make sure that the system indeed provides justice. And this group works within that system to sue neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and hate groups that organized the 2017 violence in Charlottesville. By taking them to court, working within the legal system, they have the potential to bankrupt and dismantle these networks. When they stand up, when we stand up to fight for justice, we do this as part of our responsibility and our partnership with God. We are commanded to pursue justice. Justice, justice shall you pursue. Even if that attainment of justice sometimes seems remote. But we must remember not to give up, because each of our actions makes a difference. I know that as we head into the high holidays, we will be thinking a lot about the ways that we perhaps have been fallen short. It's my hope that we do not fall short on our obligation to pursue justice around us wherever we are, not only in the way that we treat one another, not only in the way that we ensure that justice is set up as a system to enact justice justly, but in all that we will encounter as we prepare for our days of awe. We must remember that tzedakah, the same root as tzedek, is one of the ways that we can help to temper judgment's severe decree. And so as we move forward in the month of Elul, we take steps forward in all that we do, including acts of justice and righteousness. And now we will move forward and ascend, as we'll find on the words of the daf tefillah that you have in front of you, hopefully still, and prepare to blow our shofar. Rabbi Sobo, are you ready? Nothing like being put on the spot. And you can do this responsively. Amid shouts of joy to the sound of shofar, the Holy One ascends. Let us ascend. As we hear the call of community, the voice of return, let us ascend. As we feel the pull and power of tradition. Let us ascend toward forgiveness and peace of mind, toward heartfelt change and acts of repair. Let us ascend to the sound of shofar. Let us enter the gates of teshuvah. Reach deep into the sanctuary of the heart. Reach beyond to the infinite and eternal. Reach deep with every quiet breath. Reach beyond, summoned by the ancient, ringing blast of the shofar. Baruch atah Adonai, shomea teruah. Blessed are you, Adonai, who hears the sounding of the shofar. Tikiyah. Shivarim teruah. Tikiyah. And with that, I invite you all to rise as we return our Torah to the Ark with the words of Eitz Chaim Hi on page 277.
Eitz Chaim Hi, lama chazim ba, v'tomcheha meusha d'racheha darchenom, v'chon divoteha shalom hashivinu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadish yaminu kekedem chadish yaminu kekedem. We continue with the words of Aleinu on page 286. Aleinu l'shabbat Adon hakol, לתת תפילה לעצב ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts turn to those whom death has taken from us in recent days. As a congregation, we are in a period of aninut for Chelsea Smith, and a period of shloshim for Jennifer Thomas Larson, Phil Rubin, Opal Law, and Sil Sapinsley. And we recall those who died at this season in years past, with the yard sites of Robert Adler, Emil A. Asher, Stanley J. Brown, David Day, Jane Fisher, Bernard M. Frank, Raymond G. Frankel, A.M. Friend, Ruth E. Froelich, Louis Green, Stephen Green, Ben Harlan, Albert L. Harris, Jean Kamen, Sid Kaplan, Cicely Kientz, Charles M. Leon, Ella Levine, A. Joe Levy, Norman Miller, Lawrence S. Patterson, Joseph E. Pataski, Matthew Prigozhin, Alan Rosen, Shirley Ross, William A. Schimmelman, David Schumann, Jack D. Schlier, Albert David Slutzker, Ruth R. Steinberg, J. Edward Wasserman, and Walter Zuckerweiss. Invite those, any names that ought to be added or pronounced more correctly, I invite you to share them now. Invite those in mourning or remembering to rise first. As we join them standing as one community of comfort and support with the words of Mourner's Kaddish, page 292. Yit gadal, v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv, v'imru amen. Yehe shemei rabbah mivarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yit barach v'yish tabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei dekudisha, brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushvechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mrumav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen.
We conclude our service this evening with the words of Adon Olam, which you can find on page 298. And you are welcome to have a seat if you would like. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'nasa V'chefzo Kol Azai Malech Shemo Nichra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Ve'u Haya Ve'u Ove Ve'u Yeh B'tifara Ve'u Echad Ve'en Sheni Le'amshilo Le'achbira B'li Rishit B'li Tachlit Ve'lo Ha'oz Ve'hamizra Ve'hu Eili Ve'chai Goali Ve'tzur Chevli Be'itzara Ve'hu Nisi Umanos Li Menat Kozi Be'yom Ekra Be'yado Avkir Ruchi Be'it Ishan Ve'ayira Ve'im Ruchi Geviati Adonai Li Ve'lo Ira. And we will go ahead, so to try to minimize any of the congregating, we will go ahead and do our blessing for our Kiddush as well as for Hamotzi, and then there will be sliced bread and little cups of juice for you to indulge yourself in when we go out into the foyer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzah banu
Shabbat kocho, be'ahava uvratzon inchelanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodecha, be'ahava uvratzon, inchalatanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat L'chaim. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai,